So you think you're autistic. What now? If you're new here, hi, my name is Sarah and welcome to my channel where we do our makeup and learn about neurodiversity. In this video, we're going to be covering online quizzes, personal research questions, official diagnosis, self-diagnosis, and my favorite ways to learn about autism. I started to come to the realization that I may be autistic when I was 19. Ironically, it was because my current boyfriend at the time would make a lot of autism jokes about me, and it took me a whole year to ask him if he was serious and actually thought I was autistic. To which he responded, "It's pretty obvious." Which brings me to our first step. When autism came into question for me, I became hyperfixated on it and did a bunch of research. I started off by taking a bunch of online quizzes. On the website Embrace Autism, there are a lot of online quizzes to take. Now, just a disclaimer, taking these quizzes is not the same as a diagnosis, but it can give you a ballpark estimate on if autism is something you should look into. Depending on how you score, you can see if autism is unlikely or likely for you. Another website called IDR Labs can be very useful. You can see what your pie chart looks like. If you don't know about the autism spectrum pie charts, I cover it in this video. Cambridge University also has a lot of online autism quizzes. I recommend taking most, if not all, of these online quizzes, especially the RADS-R and the IDR Labs Autism Spectrum Quiz. All of the websites I mentioned are linked in the description below. So you took all of the quizzes and they all say you're probably autistic. The next step in our personal research involves deep digging and answering the big question. Why do you think you're autistic? This is a very broad question. It can be very stressful, so I'm going to break it down for you into sections and more specific questions. We are going to be using the DSM-5 diagnostic criteria for autism spectrum disorder. But I do want to emphasize that the diagnostic criteria is biased against females and people of color. Autism was thought to be a boy's condition and was initially only studied on white boys. I did use the diagnostic criteria as an outline for my questions, but I have tried to modernize them and make them more inclusive. For a lot of these questions, I will be challenging you to dive deep and think back to your childhood. I know it's difficult if you have trauma and blocked things out, but try to find photo albums, hard drives, journals, videos, yearbooks, anything that could help bring back your memories. I also want to emphasize that there is no rush here. If at any time you feel uncomfortable or get triggered or overwhelmed, you can pause this video, take a break, you can come back another day. It's okay. Please be patient with yourself. There are 2 sections, A and B, and then I'm going to be asking 5 additional questions. Keep track of how many you say yes or no to. It might also be helpful to write down the questions so you remember what they were. I'll also be showing them on the screen, so feel free to screenshot them. Starting off with section A. This section highlights deficits in social communication and interaction, whether it may be current or in the past. Do you find it difficult or exhausting to make small talk with people? Did you learn to speak either very early or unusually late? Do you have trouble initiating conversations? Do you struggle with eye contact, whether it's making too much or too little eye contact? If you force yourself to make eye contact, do you find yourself counting how long you've been holding eye contact for or feel really stressed about it? Do you have trouble reading facial expression? Have you ever been told you have an overly expressive face or the opposite, flat, minimal facial expressions? Do you have trouble recognizing and remembering faces? Do you find it extremely difficult or impossible to process what a person is saying? What about when multiple people are talking to you at the same time? Do you also struggle understanding song lyrics? Do you need captions on movies and TV shows to understand what they're saying? Do you find yourself watching other people to observe how they're interacting with each other, then consciously mimicking or mirroring what you see in order to make sure that you're saying or doing things that are socially appropriate? Do you have trouble reading body language? Do you often miss the joke or get the joke too late? Do you take things literally? Do you not understand when others are being sarcastic, even if you may be a very sarcastic person yourself? Were you bullied in school, elementary, middle, high school, and beyond? Did you have trouble making friends? Do you still have trouble making and maintaining relationships? Do you often find yourself confused in social situations, unsure of what the correct thing to do is? Are most of your friends neurodivergent? Have you felt like a social outsider your whole life? Like you wanted to fit in but never knew how?
It is one day later and I am in bed. I just woke up and I just thought of another question. Do you find yourself exhausted, sleepy, or tired after social gatherings? This includes things like after class or sports events or hanging out with friends.
Now let's move on to section B. This section highlights restricted, repetitive patterns of behavior, interests, or activities. Do you fidget a lot? Examples would be leg shaking, finger tapping, humming, singing, or rocking back and forth. Think back to your childhood and what fidgets made you feel good or calm. Do you ever enjoy how a word or sound feels when you verbalize it, so you do it a lot? Mine is brr, hello. Do you get freaked out or thrown off by sudden changes in routine, even if they're objectively minor? Think back to your childhood for this one too. How would you react to snow days, summer breaks, substitute teachers, pop quizzes? Do you often wear the same things every day? Do you often eat the same things every day or get fixated on certain foods but then get sick of them and move on to something else? Are you a picky eater? Do you have a lot of sensory issues surrounding food or have a certain way or ritual to eat certain foods? When you're eating something, does your brain randomly convince you that the food you're currently eating isn't edible anymore? Do you have an extreme or unusual passion for a specific subject that you feel compelled to learn everything about and tell other people about? Think back to your childhood with this one too. Something or multiple things that you are obsessed with and know everything about, and it brings you comfort, peace, and joy. Do you find it nearly impossible to learn things that you don't care about? Do you find it difficult to handle loud noises, bright lights, strong smells, and large crowds? Do you have sensory issues overall? Do you have difficulties regulating your temperature? Like your weather way too hot or way too cold? Do you have a super high or super low pain tolerance? Are there certain sounds, textures, scents that you love and constantly need to interact with? Now here are a few additional questions. Do you have trouble managing and completing everyday tasks, like brushing your teeth, showering, doing laundry without help or reminders? Are you often called clumsy? Has anyone ever told you that you walk weird or sit weird? Do you walk on your toes or focus on your heels? Do you have bad posture and hunch a lot? Do you always sit crisscrossed or on your knees, even in chairs? Do you pick up on patterns in your environment that other people don't notice? When you were younger, did you have temper tantrums or outbursts past the age you were supposed to be having them, to the point that it was socially unacceptable? If you said yes to most of these, especially in sections A and B, then you fit the diagnostic criteria for autism spectrum disorder. Now you have some decision making to do. Do you want to seek an official diagnosis, or are you comfortable with the possibility of self-diagnosis? I decided to seek an official diagnosis, but I was so desperate for answers, I made a mistake that I don't want any of you guys to make. This was during COVID, and I found the first person with availability who happened to be an old white man over Zoom. I was misdiagnosed with borderline personality disorder, bipolar 1, and schizotypal personality traits instead of autism. It was very confusing for me because I didn't relate to any of these diagnoses. I didn't meet any of the criteria. And on my report, there were things on there that I had never even experienced. And so I asked him, why not autism? And he said, I made really great eye contact with the camera, and I quote, "You're just a really smart girl that doesn't know how to function like a normal human being." It felt wrong, but I didn't fight it and I didn't advocate for myself. I went to a psychiatrist and got put on a bunch of bipolar meds that made me sick, and I got all of the side effects. After an assault, I went to my university crisis center for help, and I got paired up with a random counselor who happened to be an autistic woman finishing up her PhD focusing on autism in women. She was the one that realized I was misdiagnosed, and she advocated for me to get an accurate diagnosis. And I will say, my diagnosis saved my life. If I hadn't met her, I don't know if I'd still be here today. If you decide to seek out a diagnosis, please find a modern psychologist. Even if there's a wait list, it is not worth it to waste your money on a misdiagnosis. And please advocate for yourself. Show up to your evaluation prepared. Show up with notes. Basically compile evidence that would back up an autism diagnosis. I also recommend working on unmasking. If you're a high masker, it can make obtaining an official diagnosis even harder since you learn to hide your autistic traits to seem more neurotypical. We will talk about the unmasking process another time. That being said, if you do not want to risk misdiagnosis or don't have the money or just don't want to go through the stressful process of an official diagnosis, self-diagnosis is valid. This video alone, however, is not enough information to confidently self-diagnose. Self-diagnosis takes a long time, involves a lot of research, a lot of journaling, and a lot of deep digging. The most important part being that you know yourself better than anybody else. A lot of people get angry when I say self-diagnosis is valid. And to that, I have to say not agreeing or believing in self-diagnosis is classist and discriminatory. Autism diagnoses are not only inaccessible, but they are biased against AFABs and people of color. White children are diagnosed 19% more than black children and 65% more than Latino children. The misdiagnosis and late diagnosis of women is so common that it has a name. They're called the lost girls. 80% of autistic females remain undiagnosed by age 18. The average cost of psychological evaluation in the United States is between $1,200 and $2,800 out of pocket because most insurances do not cover it. And if it is covered by insurance, the waitlist can be years long. With 61% of America being paycheck to paycheck right now, just because somebody doesn't have thousands of dollars in disposable income to get officially diagnosed doesn't mean that they're not autistic and their sensory issues and support needs are invalid. I was autistic before my diagnosis, just as I am after. The University of Washington even states that inaccurate self-diagnosis of autism is uncommon. Self-diagnosis is valid because our system is deeply flawed. Getting a diagnosis doesn't unlock access to resources. The only thing I got with my autism diagnosis was accommodations for work, healing my imposter syndrome, and validation from friends and family. I was actually able to get accommodations for school before I was diagnosed with autism and ADHD. With an official diagnosis, you can get denied the ability to immigrate to certain countries, you can be denied gender-affirming care, and you can be discriminated against, especially when job hunting. Not everybody has the the ability to get one, and many people who do not fit the stereotype of a young white boy fixated with putting trains in rows will be discriminated against and misdiagnosed. It seems really unlikely that a non-autistic person is going to constantly wonder if they're autistic. I've been screwed over by our healthcare system before, and I will forever stand by self-diagnosis. It's really up to you to gauge what you are comfortable with and create your own pros and cons list. If you are privileged enough to obtain an official diagnosis, be thankful, and also acknowledge that others might not have the opportunity or ability to do the same. To finish up, I want to share some of my favorite ways to learn about autism. After I got diagnosed, I came across some amazing Instagram accounts. They post a lot of infographics and share their own personal experiences. Through these accounts, I was able to feel less alone and learn more about myself. These accounts inspired me to start TikTok because I noticed a lack of autistic Latina representation out there. A lot of these infographics on Instagram, along with TikTok videos, are great starting points to find actual studies and research papers. In a lot of my videos, I use statistics and keywords that you can type into Google and find the studies for. Be cautious of finding information on websites that end with .com and also from scary organizations like Autism Speaks. Do not trust Autism Speaks ever. Definitely go for journal articles, studies, and websites like spectrumnews.org. If you think you're autistic and made it to the end of this video, I just want to tell you how proud I am of you. You're putting in the work to learn more about yourself and get your answers. And that is amazing, and I am so happy for you. You deserve to know who you are. Thank you for being here. Click all of the buttons, and I'll see you next time. Bye!